Welcome to Stories with Brisco and Bradshaw bonus segment. I am Bradshaw, and that would be the WWE Hall of Famer, Oklahoma's favorite son, Mr. Gerald Brisco, who came from the Oklahoma State Cowboys, one of the greatest amateur wrestling programs in this country, in this planet's history. And didn't our boss, Mr. McMahon, have an amateur wrestling background as well there, Jerry?
Oh, that's a funny period of Vince's life, and I've been fortunate enough where he set in and I was in a car trip one time, so I got a road story about Vince McMahon Jr.'s amateur wrestling career. But before I get to that, you said bonus section, so this may be there. Connie's paying us bonus money on top of all that huge, gigantic money that we've been getting.
Absolutely, yeah. We're going to send Billionaire Connie a massive bill for this.
Well,
everything that you got in your background, Connie's going to pay for. Your house, my statue, everything.
Oh, he'll probably send it over to that Bruce Pritchard anyway. So that's their routine. Well, I gave it to Pritchard. Well, I gave it to Billionaire Connie. It goes back and forth like that. But let's get back to Vincent Kennedy McMahon and his great amateur. He grew up in North Carolina. There's some pretty tough characters in North Carolina. They grow up in those mountains. They drink that old moonshine. It's a different kind of moonshine. You used to drink that Hooskow down in Texas, right? Like in Oklahoma, Texas. We had Hooskow. We did have moonshine. Same thing, My dad used to grow it in the cellar, or brew it in the cellar. When they get those hot Oklahoma, South Oklahoma, North Texas days, you know how hot it gets down there, 110. Well, he had it down fermenting in the cellar. And all of a sudden, it would sound like a gun battle going off sometimes when he'd have the tops of the bottles capped. All of a sudden, you'd be sitting outside, trying to find some shade tree. You hear pop, 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 and you think, you better hit the deck. You think somebody's shooting you, but it was a moonshine. I don't know how I got onto that story.
Wait a minute. So your dad was like Granny Clampett. He had a still in the barn.
Everybody's got to make a living, John.
Did he sell moonshine?
Of course he did, man. He had a garage, Floyd Briscoe's garage down there on the main street of Bootlegging, Oklahoma, right in front of the Indian reservation. That's who he sold most of the shine to, too, was the Native Americans that coming out off that reservation, because you couldn't have alcohol across the hill. But you come across that hill and sat on my grandpappy and my daddy's benches out in front and spit tobacco. My job was to measure who could spit the farthest on the most moonshine. So I'd be standing out there. There was old Quaker oil. Remember those old Quaker oil signs that you used to see at gas stations used to swing in the wind? Yeah. That was the goal line. If you could hit that Quaker oil, you win the jackpot.
So wait a minute. You're in Bootlegging, Oklahoma, spitting moonshine to see who can spit the furthest, or tobacco to spit the furthest, while you're drinking moonshine that's being made illegally by your dad.
Sort of.
What do you mean, sort of? Selling it to the Native Americans that are right near there, because they couldn't buy booze anywhere else.
No, they couldn't. It was a blue law in Oklahoma. Hell, even when I was in high school, we used to have to hitchhike over to Kansas to get a can of 3.2 near beer, because you couldn't buy it there in Oklahoma unless you get the Hooskow.
Well, did he bootleg it also, or did he just sell it out of one place? Did he sell it out of one place, or did he distribute it?
John, they came to us. we had countywide reputation, the best Hooskow in the county, So he didn't have to put it in the trunk of his car and run it here or run it there. Although he was a mechanic, and he had some pretty fast cars, I understand. So anyway, he went to California and took his Hooskow with him. So we had no more Hooskow. I had no more cellar either.
So you and Jack grew up drinking Hooskow.
Yeah, but there's a different kind of weed drink, because we'd see our dad making this stuff. So, but we couldn't use all the good stuff that he was making. Well, we had to go out. We had what we called dandelion wine. You know what dandelions are
Yeah.
down in the Southwest. You know, you just get them and blow them in your best friend's face. You know, you being a bully, you probably had them open their mouth and
Yeah,
stick
that's what I did. I blew dandelions at people.
That's what we did for entertainment. But yeah, basically, we would make this dandelion wine. You get you some alcohol, rubbing alcohol, and you get you some type of corn syrup, put in that rubbing alcohol. Then you go out in the field and you pick all these dandelions that was just right. You had to have the big flower ones, the big petal ones, and you would stuff it down in that mason jar, and you'd twist that mason jar tight, and you'd set it down there in the cellar next to Dad's Hooskow stuff. And it took 7 days, it took 1 week for it to ferment. We'd go down there and get it. We'd sip on it. We'd laugh all the way home, man. I mean, that was some good drinking stuff. We got shut down by our mom.
I guess.
We got busted by our mom and our grandma. Man, got paddled like crazy. I had to go get the water for an extra week. We had to go out to the well and draw the water up by the well and carry it in buckets to the house. And I had to do it an extra week because that was my punishment. I think Jack had to do it an extra week, and he made me do it because he was the older brother. So I had 2 penalties stacked on top of it. So, but anyway, that's how we started our wrestling career. You know, was over that dandelion wine.
No wonder you went into wrestling. You were made for wrestling.
You know, so anyway, we moved from Bowlegs to Blackwell. You know, right up by the Kansas border there. That's where we used to have to hitchhike up to Kansas because we're only 9 miles from the Kansas border. And we wrestled. And Oklahoma, you know, great wrestling there. As you said, Oklahoma State's the greatest program ever. We got more national championships than anybody on in the United States of America in wrestling. And so, but there was a school there. You always had to, when you go to these tournaments, you never schedule them in a dual match because, you know, they had some good competitors. It was the Oklahoma School of the Blind. And there's special rules that you got to abide by, you know, and you know, being a good sportsman, as most wrestlers are, you got to stay hooked up with them. As soon as you let them go, the referee blows a whistle. It's unfair advantage because they don't know where you're at. You know, they had blind guys win state championships in Oklahoma. So getting back, one day we're in a car ride, and it's when I first went up with Pat and Bruce. I had a rent-a-car because I just flown in for my first time, and we're going from Albany, New York, over to somewhere near Boston. Lowell, Mass. Yeah, exactly. Thank you. So when so they say, okay, Brisco, we're going to take your car. You're going to ride with Vince. They want to get, you know, they want the freedom of being in the car by themselves. So it's basically my first road trip with Vince, you know, as an office guy. So I was glad to do it. So what the hell are we going to talk about? So we get in the car, you know, before we start talking about business, it's casual bullshit. Then amateur wrestling comes up, and he brings up this. He said, I tried wrestling one time. I said, oh yeah, how'd it go? You're a big, strong guy. It must have went real good. He said, yeah, I was real good for a while. I said, what do you mean for a while, Vince? He said, well, we wrestled the North Carolina School of the Blind. And I'm thinking in the back of my head, I know the results of this already because I know a lot of guys that made the mistake of this blind guy. But you know how Vince McMahon is on the rules. I mean, he has no rules written. I mean, there are rules that are in his head, and those are his rules, and they're everybody else's rules, right?
That's exactly right.
Okay, so I'm glad you said that because I thought you were going to be like Bruce Pritchard. So, well, you know, all this stuff, make excuses for the boss, you know. But you come right out and said, yeah, you're right. So he's telling me, I said, well, tell me about your story about this with this blind guy. He said, well, I walk out to the center of the ring, and he has his coach lead him out to the center of the ring, and I'm thinking. He said, he's a pretty stout-looking guy, you know, and he says, I respected that, but the guy is blind. What chance has he got against me, Vincent Kennedy McMahon? I said, slim or none, boss. He said, right. He said, so the referee told me, he said, I got to hook up with him. I got to tie up with him at all times. I got to be touching him. He's got to be touching me. We got to be touching each other. He said, so I go out there, the referee blows the whistle. So I tie up with him. He said, the guy starts shooting on me. And I said, well, what'd you do? And he said, I sprawled back. He said, when I sprawled back, I pushed him back. Whoop, I lost one of my earphones here. I pushed him back, and he's separated with me. The referee blows the whistle, and he said, you got to lock up with him. I lock up with him. I just did, and he pushed me away. And he said, well, you got to stay locked up with him. So Vince says, I lock up with the guy, and he's already, so the guy goes, and Vince goes to shoot on him, and the guy sprawls on him, and he breaks separation of the lockup. So the referee blows the whistle. Now Vince, Vince is not a very patient man. Not at all. You've seen that, right?
I have seen that, yes.
Face to face. Yeah.
Face to face. Yes.
I guess we all see that. So
yeah.
So I can just imagine how Vince is starting to get mad at this blind kid, So they said, we spar around a little bit more. And he said, we go to the edge of the mat. And I'm getting mad because the guy keeps running from me because I'm a little bit stronger than the guy. And the guy keeps backing away from me. So he said, I get the bright idea. I'm going to snap him down. So he gets a hold of him. And he snaps the guy. And he snaps him down. He snaps right on Vince's ankle. Snaps, the guy goes down. And just out of instinct, the guy stays close. He grabs Vince's ankle, puts a shoulder, he goes off the mat. The referees are getting ready to award 2 points, and Vince, the coach, said, no, they were off the mat, and they confer, and then you're right. So now Vince is really mad at this blind guy. Poor little kid. He's a blind kid, wrestling Mr. McMahon. And so they go out to the ring, they lock up, they go out in the middle of the mat, and they lock up again, whirl around a little bit. Now Vince is going into business for himself, as he says. So he breaks the tie-up. He said, I shoot the perfect double leg. And I take his ass down. But the referee don't give me 2 points. Why didn't the referee give you 2 points? He said, I wasn't locked up with him. He said, now I'm really mad. So this guy, now we're getting ready to go into the second period. And it's 0-0. And I'm embarrassed. My girlfriend's there watching, of course, and I'm embarrassed. Wasn't Linda. I asked him if it was Linda. No, it wasn't Linda. This is before Linda even. So they go back to the center of the mat, and Vince, the referee goes, lock up. So Vince locks up. As soon as he locks, it fills the other guy locked. He breaks the grip. And he goes to shoot again. The referee blows the whistle. He said, I had him again, but the referee blew the whistle. I said, so was you locked up with him? No. I said, of course the referee's gonna blow the whistle. So now the referee's on this. One more time, man, kid, and I'm disqualifying you. So Vince said, heck with it. So he goes out, he locks up with the guy. He said, I'm gonna take him down, pin him. So as during the little scrim, they go down. Vince, the way Vince has described it is funny. He goes down, he double legs the kid falls backward. Vince is sliding up on his shoulders to go for a half or something like that, and the kid makes it to the edge of the mat, which really upsets Mr. McMahon now. So they get up, and as they get up, Vince was telling me, he said, now I'm pissed off because he blocked my takedown. Now he's run off the mat for me, and things just aren't going my way. And the second period is winding down, and all my teammates are thinking I was going to pin this guy in the first period. So I'm embarrassed. So he goes out there, and now he goes to lock up. As soon as the referee blows the whistle, he breaks the lockup again. Referee blows the whistle. All right, that's two penalty points. 2 penalties. Next one is a disqualification. Vince goes out, and the guy gets Vince, and he grabs a headlock on Vince. Well, the guy's got him, so Vince comes out, kind of shoves the guy off like he's going to shove him to the rope, but there ain't no rope on there. So as he shoves him off, the guy is separated, of course, and Vince goes to shoot him. Before he can shoot, he said, the referee's blowing the whistle. And Vince said, the entire base on the other side of the gym's going crazy, or jumping up and down, not jumping. And I look over at my coach. My coach has got his head down. My teammate, I think, what the hell has happened? The referee walks over and raises the blind guy's hand on disqualification. And Vince quit wrestling right then and there.
Really?
Yeah.
So he lost to the blind guy, and he quit
Vince
wrestling.
McMahon lost to the blind guy and quit wrestling all on the same day.
And then he thought, to heck with it. I'm going to take over the entire world and own wrestling.